All right, and we're back here with you out of black here, folks. And again, thank you for being patient with us. It's because we didn't expect to have this much of an audience here tonight. So that reset there helps us prevent a disconnect here going forward. The last thing that we want to do is lose you, our audience. We don't want it to spontaneously end here as far as our live streaming. So we're back here with you live, and we'll stay here with you live and continue to answer your questions. Walt is talking to one of our wonderful producers here at WFLA, that being Liz Hall. And again, getting back, Walt, kind of refresh. I was just resetting things. What were we just chatting about?
You and I?
Yes.
I think we're talking about the timeline.
Yes.
And that we have been told, look, I don't like to question police this way. And this is not criticism to them because they're like us. There was no surveillance on Brian Laundrie when he came back. He wasn't even a person of interest on the first.
Let's make this clear for our audience. September 1st
is when police say they were told he was back. We now know from this indictment that he is accused of unauthorized use of devices, as in credit cards, debit cards, during a 3-day period in Wyoming, unless somehow federal law says you used it a state over, which I don't think is the case. He's accused in the Wyoming district, which covers just Wyoming. He's accused of using someone else's credit cards on the 30th, 31st, and 1st.
Oh, wow.
So how is he back here on the 1st? It does change the timeline, right? And it's a question we asked Josh Taylor. You know, how do you know he was back on the 1st? And let's, again, not the parents. I don't know. The parents didn't tell police till last Friday that Brian hadn't been seen since Tuesday. And somehow the chief knew last Thursday. He told us a week ago that when he was asked, do you know where Brian Laundrie is? He said one word, yes.
Yes.
Right? So how did he know? Was it because he was told, or because they had eyes on him and they lost him? We don't know the answer to that.
Here's what every viewer right now at home watching is screaming. I know, because we've been covering this story now for more than a week, and I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on our audience. If they didn't have eyes on him, and if they didn't know for in fact that he was there, then Brian could be anywhere.
Yeah, right.
Anywhere.
Well,
and I know Florida,
but
I have
the feds are now leading this investigation and have been for a week. I mean, I just have to believe that they know something that makes them want law enforcement out there in the middle of that video right there. Right?
I want to hold that thought. The Fox News interview, the Guthries say that they saw Brian at the house. And the time frame for that was about a week to a week and a half after he got back. So if Brian Laundrie is in fact, now the Guthries are the neighbors. Fox News did the interview last night live from their front lawn. It was an interview that of course I think a lot of folks watched. And it was a man and a woman, the Guthries, Mr. and Mrs. Guthrie, answering questions live on Fox News and saying that they saw Brian Laundrie come home and then, September 1st or so, and then a period of about 7 to 10, about a week to a week and a half later, that's when they went on the camping trip. So let's bring up the next question and comment here on WFLA Now. And this one, thanks a lot, Kate, for your comment. That brings us up to Kathy. I've been speaking way too much. Kathy Jin Sutphin, #HJB. Where did Brian and his family go camping? Has anyone checked that location for Brian? And now again, if the Guthries see, that phone's ringing. You got it?
I got it. It's fine.
Okay. If the Guthries see Brian, and then Brian is no longer seen during that 3-day period. Brian is there and then he's not. And the turning point is that 3-day camping trip, if that is indeed true. And they said it was a weekendish trip. So that would put the timeline at around the 10th, 11th, 12th, somewhere in that time frame. The camping trip, then is that when Brian vanished? Is that when Brian just disappeared and found a way to get out from under the nose of law enforcement? If he was at that time under the nose of law enforcement, which I know that many of you have been speculating that.
Well, he wouldn't have been, right? Because the 11th he is when she's reported missing. What is the date he became a person of interest? It wasn't on the 11th.
No. It was after that.
So there's no reason to watch
reported
him
missing
then.
on the 11th. Laundrie leaves leaves his home on the 14th, again according to police, with the hiking bag, and then he's named a person of interest on the 15th. So then there's no way that they were really keeping tabs on him at the time, right? We would have known by now if they were really keeping tabs on him. I think Josh Taylor, in the interview that we had almost a week ago now, he would have said that he was saying that in that interview that they weren't necessarily keeping active tabs on him because he was a just a person of interest, and the investigation really hadn't risen to that point at that time. So I don't know what this means now. I don't know what this means. We're gonna have to ask so many questions here now. New questions are brought into this equation.
Yeah, it definitely, in some ways it clears things up. I think it tightens the timeline. The day there were no points on the timeline for the days that of the 29th, 30th, and 31st. I'm sorry. Yeah, right? No. 29 30, 31st, and 1st, right? There's nothing on the timeline for that. We have the text message on the 27th. Odd, according to Nicole Schmidt, Gabby's mom. Odd text message. We have that on the 27th. And we have credit card activity on 3 days, probably in Wyoming. And then we have a sort of a conflict there where how is there credit card activity in Wyoming on the 1st if he's back in Florida on the 1st?
Well, here's what this means to me, Walt, because we were talking about how long it takes to drive, and we don't know if there was air travel. We don't know if air travel is a component here or a factor here in this investigation, really, for certain. What we know is that it takes about 35 hours to drive from Northwest Wyoming to Northport, Florida.
How many hours?
35 hours. That to me is a 3-day trip. So that's 11 to 12 hours of driving per day across 3 days. So did Brian Laundrie come home, drive August 30th, August 31st, September 1st, and return home matching the timeline? And over that period of time, use the Capital One debit card across state lines, making it a federal crime, a federal arrest warrant now being issued because it's occurring over state lines and occurring in multiple jurisdictions, but being filed in the District of Wyoming court.
When you say it like that, that's 100% possible, I think.
That really adds
we
up.
We need a federal, and I know some former federal U.S. attorneys, and I can definitely reach out to them. That's totally plausible that theoretically is the card taken from Wyoming. And that's why it is filed in Wyoming. Is it filed in Wyoming because the feds are in Wyoming? They can file anywhere they want.
Or does the crime work like this? If I steal your credit card, I'm a pal. But if I stole your credit card and I went on a road trip and I was like, man, I got this debit card. I'm going to spend all of Walt's money.
Do it.
And I start in Florida. And I hit up Alabama, and I hit up Mississippi, and I'm heading west, and then I'm going to hit up Texas. I'm going to go all the way out to California, hit up all these states across this trip.
You probably do get charged here, so that does make sense.
Would it be the first charge being in Florida? I first use your debit card. Is that where the district of jurisdiction would be?
Maybe it's from where the card is stolen. And we're not lawyers, nor do we pretend to be lawyers, but that does make sense, and it makes more sense. The cash theory makes sense as well, but then you still have to ask, how do we know he was back on the 1st?
We don't.
We don't know.
We're taking Northport police at their word,
and they're more than likely taking. They could be taking the family's word as well on that.
Yeah, and let's just be very honest and candid with our viewers. I have never had to dissect a federal arrest warrant for use of unauthorized access devices all that much in the past. It's not.
No.
This is a very
I will
obscure federal crime.
I love cases like that because now the next time that charge comes across my desk, I'll be able to say, oh, that's credit card fraud. And people will go, wow, how do you know that? And here's why. I also would say that's the shortest indictment I've ever seen. Is it one page?
One page.
It's not even a full page.
This is it.
Not a lot of details.
I got rid of the white space. I even bent it. I mean, it's one page.
It's a one-page indictment. Very quick.
And so, okay, again here, I want to make this clear. It's the federal arrest warrant for Brian Christopher Laundrie is for use of unauthorized access devices, which is a fancy way of saying you took someone's card.
It's credit card fraud.
Credit card fraud. You took someone's card, didn't have their permission, and you started spending money.
And by the way, in that federal statute, as you read the whole thing, there are other things it could involve, including other types, not just credit cards. But in this case, we now know it's credit card fraud.
Let's get to some more questions here.
Alleged credit card fraud.
Alleged credit card fraud. Thank you. Very astute of you. And yes, alleged credit card fraud. Let's get to some more here. Amber Brock, hashtag Hey Walt, for you. Do you know how many transactions he made and which kind?
No, we don't. We know the total, though. The total is what, $1,000?
$1,000 aggregated.
$1,000 aggregated, which would lead you to believe it's more than one, correct?
Yeah, because hold on. Yeah, back to what I was saying earlier. If we're playing the words game here and really dissecting this by literally every character of this indictment, that
So
I'll read it
that's
again.
grand theft
Capital
also.
One bank debit card and a personal identification number, the PIN, 4-digit PIN likely, for a Capital One bank account or Capital One bank accounts, and by such conduct obtained things of value aggregating to $1,000 or more during that period. Which, listen, this could, to Walt's point, this could be a $1,600 cash withdrawal from an ATM, or this could be a spending spree. More than $1,000.
Or gas. To your point, that it's filed in. I mean, because I guess when you think about it, what are you going to do? You're not going to file in every jurisdiction that he uses it, right? You're going to pick one jurisdiction. I feel relatively ignorant for even suggesting that it was all spent in Wyoming. But yeah, you bring up a good point. You're going to file in one jurisdiction. You're not going to file in every single jurisdiction that he crosses. You're going to file in that one. So it could very well be, and it logically means it's how he got home. He used those credit cards to get home.
This was the lifeline to get him back to Florida.
Yes.
Is what this leads
what
us
it
to.
Seems to believe.
What
Seems
it seems to be.
Yes.
We're staying rooted in reality. Again and again, trying to break down what this could be and what this could not be. And that's what we do with our commenters here. We tell you what is within the realm of possible and what is outside the realm of possible. And there's so much on each side of those two equations. Each side of that equation. Let's continue to take some questions here because again, our commenters here are right on the money. Amber, thanks a whole lot for your hashtag Hey Walt a comment here in the Facebook Live comment section, and we're taking comments and questions from Twitter and YouTube as well here. Cynthia Amaya, hashtag Hey JB. Doesn't it mean that he would have to be brought back to the U.S. if he's out of the country? Great question. So this is a federal arrest warrant. Now, okay.
We don't know he's out of the U.S., but yes.
10 times. If he is outside of the U.S., can this bring him back?
Oh, yeah, I would think that's. That's what the question is. Does that? Yes.
For using somebody else's card?
There are countries that cooperate with us and countries that don't. And is that an extraditable offense? Is it good enough to be? Is it big enough? I don't know that. It does say it's a felony, and I would bet that amount of money, the $1,000, probably if there is a misdemeanor in the federal system for that crime. Then I don't even know if there are federal misdemeanors. I don't think I've ever covered a federal misdemeanor. But the dollar amount usually makes something a felony or a misdemeanor. So I would think on a felony, is it extraditable? I don't know. I think
back to the analogy that we were just talking about. If I steal your credit card and I'm having a great time because I'm using your credit card and I'm going on a spending spree and hanging out Florida, Alabama, Mississippi. I go all the way to Mexico. Okay, and then all of a sudden you realize your card is missing and you're out thousands of dollars. Can the Federal Bureau of Investigation, on the grounds of this federal arrest warrant and this federal indictment, call up Mexico and say J.B. Buno has been using Walt Buteau's card here and we want him back in the U.S. to prosecute?
I would imagine in that conversation there would be a discussion that he's a person of interest in a homicide. That you're not, but that
I'm not
Brian would be.
in this analogy.
And that could enhance that. I think if you just have someone on credit card fraud, I think even if it's extraditable, I would bet they have bigger fish to fry. But good question. I didn't get that out of it, but yeah, solid question. Yeah, that does theoretically help them with that.
Very interesting. An interesting comment and an interesting question here. Megan Walsh, #HAB, could definitely be cash. He allegedly offered those people $200 to drive him 10 miles.
Solid point.
Okay.
Solid point.
Let's talk about this now.
But maybe he already had cash. He just needed more cash. Could have been cash, though. That's true. That does sort of cover all our bases, right?
Walt, do you know how many 22 and 23-year-olds walk around with a whole wad of cash these days?
How about 42-year-olds and 52-year-olds? Nobody has cash anymore. When I've used cash in various places, they tell me now, because of COVID, we don't have change. Like, there's a lack of change. So, yeah, you're right. That's a good point.
It's almost weird if you do carry around cash these days.
Right.
And so if Brian Laundrie was either given advice or if he was, he was cognizant enough of what had happened, and we don't know what happened, but cognizant enough of everything that was around him at the time and what he was currently going through at that time, if he knew he needed cash, then the TikTok video of the woman saying, I gave Brian Laundrie a ride, and we talked about that on a previous live stream. And we said that there's nothing to say that that is true other than this woman's word, and there's nothing to say that it isn't true. But if that's the case, if what Megan is saying here with this comment and what you were saying earlier, if Brian Laundrie goes to the ATM, withdraws a whole lot of cash from, again, a card that we don't know whose card it is, but I think people are, of course, already theorizing whose card it is. If he takes all of this cash, then he has the ability to, yes, pay people for rides and pay with cash. So does that add up now? Does that pushes it more, that wrinkle of this story more towards the realm of possible versus the realm of
somebody
impossible?
tweeted at me, and I'm not going to say their name, but it's interesting, and I'll look this up tomorrow. WFCN News out of Marion, Illinois. By the way, I used to work. That was my first job in television in the Marion area. Marion, Illinois. Well, it was Harrisburg, Illinois.
You said Illinois. I thought you said Maryland.
No, Marion, Illinois.
Okay.
And by the way, Marion's claim to fame is they have a federal prison there. I think it's a level 5. It's one of the only level 5s, I think, in the country, if I recall correctly. And Ray Fosse, the former Major League Baseball player, is from there. But it's getting late. I'm going nuts here. Anyway, here's what he says. WFCN News posted Monday of 2 separate reports from gas station employees in Benton, Illinois. That's southern Illinois, by the way. That is southern Illinois where the Mississippi meets the Ohio. That FBI agents were requesting security camera footage in relation to the investigation. The reports indicate that Brian Laundrie may have used at least one card to purchase gasoline.
Okay, there it goes. I was trying to turn my volume down and it got stuck. But anyway, I will get back with y'all soon, here in just a minute, and catch up with some things around here, and we will talk then. Thank you. Bye.